Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I am Elizabeth Denham, publisher and editor of the Franchise Woman magazine, and I'm here with Rebecca Monet, chief scientist and president of Zoracle Profiles. So Rebecca, roses and thorns for the week.
You know, I think this... You know, we thought we needed to start writing these down because neither one of us think in terms of thorns. We always think of the blessings. But I got to tell you, I had an odd thing happened the other day. I am on my couch with a computer in my lap, and the lights are off. So this really the only kind of lights is coming from the computer. And I'm kind of reclined back, and all of a sudden, out of my right eye, I see something moving. And my first thought was ghost. Now, I know other people might not think ghost, but that was my first thought. Oh my gosh, there's a ghost, or there's some kind of, you know, whatever in my house. But it turns out when I looked, whatever it was moving was I had left the back door of a big porch in the back, and I live out on a farm, open, and some kind of I'm going to call it a June bug or water bug or whatever it was, had entered and was on the floor. And as you know, I'm moving slow because I'm still healing from a broken leg. And I'm like wanting to just find something as fast as I can, a book, flip-flop, a bowling ball, I don't care, something.
Squish that sucker.
I'm going to squish that sucker. By the way, I don't have any bowling balls, but I want to squish that sucker as fast as I can. And so I'm hoping it doesn't move too fast while I'm finding a pair of shoes, which I never wear shoes. But the whole time I'm thinking, I'm a human being. I'm a billion times bigger than this bug. Why is it putting me in such a crazy mental state? But hey, what can I say? I was not in a good place after that. That to me was a crazy thorn.
That is so funny, but you were not alone, because I have two girls who squeal like the biggest weenies you've ever seen if a fly comes around them. They always think it's a wasp or a bug. I mean, it's just hilariously. I'm like, you guys, at some point, you're just going to have to smack it.
Yeah.
Well, what's your rose to go with that? Because did you catch it? Maybe that's the rose. Did you get it? Did you squish it?
I did.
Oh, good.
I did. The only problem I had was after I smack it. You know, it was a whole bunch of times because I wanted to make sure it was gone.
Of course.
Then what do you have? You have this kind of crazy mess.
You have bug guts.
Doesn't that sound terrible? So fortunately, I have a delightful neighbor.
Oh, that's nice.
And he's a sweetheart. So I sent a note to Kenny across the street from me, and I said, Kenny, can you help me? And, you know, right now I can play, you know, like I have a broken wing or something. And he comes right over and he picks it up and he tosses it for me.
That's so sweet. That's so funny. I'm glad you did not have to deal with your own bug guts.
No. Okay, girl, how about you? What's your thorn? What's your rose?
Well, it's kind of a mixture of things, but we had a little celebration on the back porch the other day because Luke's boyfriend graduated. He's the first person in his family to graduate college, first person to get past 10th grade. And my parents came over and sat way on the other end of the porch. We have not had them over since March. They're being very careful. And the one missing was our daughter, Hannah, who's in Virginia. And so we had her on FaceTime. So the thorn was that she couldn't be there. The rose is that we have FaceTime, so she could sort of be there. But we were passing the phone around and trying to find a good angle where she could see people and hear people. And then we just sort of propped her up on the umbrella pole in the middle of the table. And so, you know, who knows who she was seeing at which times, but every now and then somebody would forget about her and they would be holding the phone and put her down, face down on the table. And we'd hear this voice coming up going, hello, pick me up. And then we'd be like, oh, sorry, we forgot about you for a second. And then something else would happen, or people would get up and walk from the other end of the table, and she'd be looking at no one, and she'd be like, hello. So the rose was also that it was hilarious because poor little Hannah, she's like, I knew somebody would eventually pick me up and move me.
Oh, poor kid.
She hung in there for a long time before she finally said, I think I'm going to go.
Yeah, I'm being ignored.
She stayed she hung in there for the toast and then, visited for a little while. But after a while, she's like, okay, enough of this.
She's done.
If y'all are going to forget about me and not move me where I can see, then I'm just not going to participate.
So maybe Apple or some other technology company will create a 360-degree telephone.
Oh, that would be smart.
Cameras. Wouldn't that be smart? Where you don't have to be smack
like
dab in front, but it could.
Yeah, it's like those panoramic views. You could just touch where you want to go.
Yeah, or even if it was a motion type of thing. Yeah. Okay, she moved. I'm going to move with her. She moved. I'm going to move with her. Something that somebody needs to invent that.
Well, I think Facebook has a tablet type thing that's called Portal, and it looks like an iPad, and the camera will follow you around, but it's flat, so it's not 360, but I bet you that's on the horizon.
There you go. And you heard it first, right here
we need credit.
On Our Roses and Thorns.
Mm-hmm. We need credit for sure.
We do. I want 10%.
At least a free one. At the very least, a free, model.
I'm with you.
Anyway, all right. Well, fun for the week. I'm glad your bug got handled. You need to come here because we have a lot of bugs in Alabama, and we just sort of ignore them.
Immune to them, right?
we're immune to it at this point. But anyway, we will be back next week, hopefully, with more exciting roses and thorns. And we have a very special guest to interview today. Rebecca, tell us who we have.
A special guest indeed. So we have our friend here, Laura Spaulding. Laura Spaulding is the founder of the fastest growing franchise specializing in crime scene cleanup. Laura Spaulding spent 7 years in law enforcement in undercover narcotics and vice. When she finally got sick of the low pay and the lack of advancement, she obtained her MBA and launched a crime scene cleanup company in 2005. With no business loans, venture capital, or angel investment, she got very creative and took a home equity loan out for $15,000. She grew the company and eventually franchised in 2016. In just a few years, there are over 30 locations across the country. The media attention from Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur Magazine, Huffington Post, and many others have catapulted the business as one of the top franchises in the country. After only 3 years of franchising, Spaulding Deacon made the Entrepreneur Magazine Franchise 500 and is well positioned to expand its footprint across the U.S. and abroad. So, Laura, we're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation. And I'm wondering if you could at least give us a little bit of backdrop of your story and how you ended up choosing to become an entrepreneur, choosing to become a franchisor.
Yeah, like many people my age, when I was growing up, I was always taught, you get a job, you stay there for 30 years, and then, hopefully one day you'll get a pension and then you retire. So my entrepreneurial thoughts and desires were always really downplayed and, make that a hobby. Don't do that. Or, so they weren't really, rewarded or brought up to, I never got any mentorship or anything like that. So, I kind of followed in my father's footsteps, and after college, went into law enforcement and living in the Midwest. It was the first place that hired me out of college, and not really the place for me. No offense against the Midwest, but just wasn't my kind of speed.
I can relate.
Yeah. This wasn't for me. I had a good time, and I learned a lot about people working in law enforcement, and what motivates people, and the evil side of things. It can make you a little bit jaded. So after only 18 months of being in the police department, I was only 23 years old. They pulled me into undercover narcotics and vice. And, I came from a normal, middle class type, environment. So it was eye opening to me and it was very sad. I remember thinking like, wow, you really don't realize how good you have it until you experience how other people live and, their addictions and why they started it and, the prostitution side of things. And it was just sad. And it changes your outlook and your view on life. You got to remember, if you're spending 40 to 60 hours a week, always seeing the evil, negative side of the world, it really changes your mindset in not a good way. It makes you jaded, and that's probably a lot of reasons that we're having so many issues with law enforcement because they're so programmed for that. So I started looking into opportunities, and of course I didn't have a pot to piss in. Wasn't making, $40,000 a year. I had like $2,500 in savings and nothing. So working the job one night, I was working a homicide and the lady asked me when we were coming back to clean. So I thought, I have no idea how to answer this question. And I didn't know what to say to her. And I said, I have no idea, but we don't do that. So I started asking around and looking into it. And I realized there was a big disconnect. So law enforcement was going in and doing their investigation, collecting their evidence, and basically saying, bye, it's your house, do what you want with it. So I thought, well, they're getting traumatized twice. So something happened in their home and now they're being forced to clean it up, which is horrible. So after I started looking all over the country, I thought there's got to be less than 15 companies in the entire United States doing this. So I went to Dallas, Texas, and I got some training and certification and, obviously didn't have any money. So I had to bootstrap everything. I couldn't get any loans. Nobody would give me a private loan, much less a bank loan. So my growth was very slow, and it's been pretty slow in my opinion from the 15 years that we've been open now. And then in 2016, I decided to have the bright idea of franchising the company.
Woohoo! What a journey to see an opportunity there that was so obvious, but no one was really taking advantage of, and then stepping outside and taking on those risks and bootstrapping. That's an incredible story, Laura.
Yeah, when I started, my initial thought process was I'll moonlight and I'll just do this on the side because I didn't know how much business there would be. And I thought there's clearly a need for these people, so I can help them when I'm not working. And, but the police department ended up giving me an ultimatum. So I had to choose between the business, which had no revenue at that point, not even $1, and my career there. And most people thought I was nuts, but I was like, I'm good. Peace out. And I quit and packed my stuff up and moved to Florida. And that's where I started the business.
Wow. Well, it's an amazing story from where you started to where you are, but along that path, I've interviewed you a couple of times now. You had more obstacles than most. It was one after the other, after the other, after the other. So I always find it so interesting to try to understand how someone, people deal differently. One person might go through the things that you've been through and just lament in their victimness forever. Someone like you pulls yourself up, bootstraps it, and makes it happen. So what do you think about you creates that drive and ability to overcome?
Yeah, I think it's stubbornness. It wasn't really like, I know I can do this, I know I can do it. It was more, I don't really have a choice. There was no plan B. I had no family to fall back on. If this didn't succeed, I would have nothing. So I used my only savings and I put 100% of my effort in. And I think that's where a lot of, especially when I hear from franchise candidates, this is where I notice a failure rate. When I hear them say, I'd like to keep my job while I'm building my business. What that says to me is I don't have confidence in myself. So I want to make sure that I have my insurance and security while I, kind of half-ass this business and see if it goes anywhere. That's what that really means. So, that was one of the biggest things that we did is we don't allow absentee or semi-absentee. Because if you don't have confidence in yourself, how am I supposed to, confide in you to be successful?
Right. Confidence and commitment
Yes.
in this case. Confidence in my ability to grow something, and I've chosen the right business to be involved in that has an incredible future, and
Right.
commitment to put in the time and energy. I mean, commitment is such a big
It really
marker
is.
towards success, and you call it stubbornness, but I would like to reframe that just a little bit and call that willfully determined is what
Yeah.
doing
Well,
whatever it takes.
I view business like almost like I view life. It's a game to me, and you win or you lose. And just because you have a setback doesn't mean you've lost. It gives you an opportunity to pivot and try to succeed after all that. And there have been, a ton of setbacks, and I would be lying if I didn't think, sometimes, is this really worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want to keep going? Because the end has to justify the means. And I always wanted to make sure that, am I happy? That's number one. Like if what I'm doing doesn't make me happy, then it's not worth it at the end of the day. I don't do this for the money. I do this because I really enjoy it. And when there comes a day where I don't enjoy it anymore, that's the day that I'm going to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
That's that passion,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, that we talk about, right? That's that passion. We're in a crime scene cleanup. Imagine being passionate about that. So it's there's got to be some kind of a purpose behind that allows you to wake up every day and say, this brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
This in some way is fulfilling for me, because when I look at it from the outside looking in, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are making a huge difference in people's lives. You're offloading a major responsibility in very traumatic situations, touching the lives of people at some of the worst times in their lives. That's got to feel incredibly fulfilling for you and those that work with you.
It does. And, that's the main thing that really gratifies me. And if I ever decide, to leave this business and, do another business, it's going to be something similar in the fact that I can have a positive impact on people's lives. And because that's gratifying to me. I'll never be the CPA person that's just crunching numbers and pumping it out. They may get gratified in a different way, but I have to have an impact on my community, on my employees, and on our customers, or it's simply just boring to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and in terms of the impact that you do have, I spent 8 years representing people who were trying to get Social Security disability. And it was one of the more enlightening experiences of my life because I had it pretty easy growing up. My parents were upper middle class. I didn't suffer for anything. It was expected that I would go to college. I didn't come out with a lot of debt. But talking in a very intimate way to people who struggled or had a disability or had a physical injury or got worn out from doing heavy, manual labor their whole lives, and learning the stories of, like you were saying, how they got there, and humanizing that experience. To me, the lessons learned in terms of empathy and non-judging behavior were amplified by that. And I would imagine this would be a similar experience for you. And I know you've talked about the people who work for you and you yourself having to cut off from the emotional impact of some of what you do, but also have the empathy for the living. So tell us a little bit about how you cope with that and what lessons you've learned in dealing with all that.
Yeah, I think each of us copes with it a little differently, but every time it happens, I'm able to kind of sit back and reflect on it. And what I've realized is when I go to these scenes, I make it a habit of not to ask questions, but also if I put myself in a position to where I'm engaging in just casual conversation, they tend to unload on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that you want to say, oh, stop, I don't want to hear it, because that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
They need to talk to somebody and I'm the first person there. So it's the least I can do.
Right.
But I've noticed that when I leave, after I hear that story, it carries a heavier burden
Mm-hmm.
than when I'm just looking at it as spilled milk and I have no idea what happened or who it was.
Right.
But when I get such details, I just had a military suicide a couple weeks ago, and two 12-year-old twins were in the house, and the wife was as well. And, we're talking about the job itself from an insurance standpoint, and she just unloaded on me. And, it was probably 3 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm not only thinking about her, but what those kids saw, but I'm also thinking about, that poor guy felt he had no way out.
Mm-hmm.
He had severe PTSD from, 3 tours in Iraq. And I think he felt he was a burden to his family.
Yeah.
How sad. To that point, franchisees that are running this business in their individual locations have to have a degree of compassion and empathy, while at the same time, kind of that sympathy versus empathy thing, the ability to sort of step back and be a resource, because that's what they are. They're a resource. So empathy without jumping into the quicksand with their clients is part of what Spaulding Deacon offers to the franchisee, some training around how to keep that delicate balance of, keeping resourceful, but at the same time understanding empathetically what's going on.
Yeah, so it actually starts a lot earlier than that, because what we've been able to discover is some people just don't have empathy. And it's unfortunate, but it's our responsibility when we're vetting employees and franchise candidates. If you're one of those people, this isn't the business for you. You need to be in something more black and white. There's a lot of gray area here. And we've made the mistake before of bringing in a franchisee who literally had no empathy. And, when customers would refer to him, they would say he's like a robot. Like he was just, So we are very cautious, because that was in the early days, this is not for you. If you can't sympathize or empathize with these families, Jesus, you've got bigger issues, than that. You need to go run a bank or something, because this is not going to work. So we start in the vetting process of, DISC personalities, Zoracle profiles, things like that we want to see. Do they have the ability to empathize? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? All these things create, kind of a sympathetic personality. But then once they get to training, we go over the mindset and the emotional and the stages of grief. That's a big thing, because I'll hear employees say all the time, he wasn't even crying. I don't think he cared. No, that doesn't mean anything. That means that he's in a different stage of grief. So we go over all that so that they know, not to be judgmental. Everyone grieves in their own way.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the hardest things. And even the judgment. People judge mental health issues. People judge hoarders, which comes from mental health issues. And if you don't have the ability to understand that, the same thing was with my job. I felt like I was a therapist half the time, because they would just call me to unload. And have nothing else to say. And I had to kind of learn for the first year. I think I didn't sleep because I carried that burden. If I don't win their case, they're not going to eat, or they're sleeping in their car right now. What can I do? What resources can I direct them to? So you do have to be able to, like, you're still carrying around that story for 3 weeks. I mean, I think it's important to remember those things, because you do learn from it, but how do you put that aside? It's hard.
It was, but becoming from law enforcement, I was already doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that you're grateful. It's just a lot of gratitude. It could have been me.
Right.
Every one of these scenes, it could have been me. I just happened to be in a different place at a different time. So I think it's important to reflect and realize you're not immune. It could happen to any of us.
Yes. Perspective is everything.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And that grateful heart goes a long, long way. And the job at hand, you're solving this problem. You may not be able to solve the problems prior to what happened in this particular, whether it's hoarding or crime or whatever it is. We can't solve that problem, but we can solve this current problem and offload the pain of the cleanup and that comes around us. So you're at least taking some of the boulders off of somebody's shoulders by taking that on. So I guess I have a question, hoping to lighten the mood here just a little bit. Do you have any unusual, funny, silly, crazy stories that you can share with us in this business of Spaulding Deacon? Is there any story that you can share with us that?
Oh boy! Wow, I think I shared a strange one with you.
Yeah, that was a great story. If you don't,
if
you don't mind sharing that again.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So it was, I would say it's about 10 years ago. It was quite a long time ago. And it was an elderly man that was, I think he was terminally ill, and he just put a pillow over his head and shot himself. So the adult daughter called us over there to clean it up, and she insisted on watching while we cleaned it up. And I thought, okay, again, stages of grief, perhaps that's closure for her. So I thought, no big deal. Well, while we're cleaning it up, I had a piece of his, I think it was jaw and tooth. And I had it, and I was getting ready to put it in the biohazard bag. And she said, no, I want that. Can I have that? And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
You want that? And she caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess so. And then next day we came back to the job, and she was wearing it around her neck.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
She just wanted a piece.
What a great example of each of us grieves differently, deals with things. I remember a friend of mine lost her mother, elderly mother, and they did the ashes, and then they put it in this beautiful little necklace or vial thing, and she wears it every single day. For me, I wouldn't want my parents' ashes hanging around my chest, kind of thing. But to her, it's keeping her close to the heart, and she shows it off, and she's very happy with it. And it's a beautiful piece of jewelry. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe she would even have that. So, like you said, each of us has a different way of dealing with trauma. In this particular case, and somehow for this client of yours, it was comforting, I guess, in some way.
Yeah, I think, she just viewed it, I don't know if you remember this. I remember it was all over the media when Angelina Jolie was married to that,
Billy Bob.
Billy Bob Thornton, yeah.
And they wore that vial of each other's blood around their neck. And everybody was like, oh my God, that's disgusting, and everybody had an opinion on it because it was, strange in our culture, but this is probably no different.
Interesting. How fascinating.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. The closest thing I get is I have my children's names on a necklace. That's it.
There you go.
I don't need any body parts. So shifting gears again, I want to talk a little bit about the team that you've built around you, because we did an interview for the Franchise Woman in the Pride section, this issue that's coming out next week. And you talked about having a refuge or a haven for diverse people and how important that is to you. So tell us a little bit about that, because I really think it's appealing to listen to someone who says the customer is not always right. If my people are being treated poorly for who they are, then those are not the clients that we want to attract. So give us a little perspective on that.
Yeah, that's kind of always been my philosophy, and it worries me when businesses say the customer's always right. And I've seen other businesses accommodate the customers when they've been discriminating against, the race or the sexual orientation or whatever. But I still get it constantly. I'll go to jobs and they'll say, "Well, where's everybody else?" I'm like, "No, it's me." "Well, where's the man?" And it's like, 1920 called, you need to go back.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't need to work for you to make my life whole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to help you. Either take it or don't be an asshole. You know what I mean? So that's just my thought process. But, we have people call from all walks of life, and we had one a couple months ago that she was an elderly lady, living in the sticks. And she called the office and said, "You're not sending any coloreds, are you?"
Oh no.
And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So,
No.
yeah. And, my staff is obviously extremely diverse, and we discussed that stuff. And, immediately she said, "You know what? I don't think we're the right fit for you. You probably need to find another service."
Ditto, yeah.
Because we won't accommodate that. I don't care who you are, but that's not us. So, and I know other companies will do that, and more power to you, but that's not me.
Yeah. It's so empowering to say no to a customer that doesn't fit with the vision, the purpose of what you are as a company, as a culture. If they don't fit, we don't want to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
I remember having a similar experience some time back with a potential reseller. And I'm like, this is just not a good fit. I don't care how much business you can bring us. You don't see the world the way, in this case, Zoracle sees the world. In your case, Spaulding Deacon sees the world, which is inclusive. It is about unconditional love and empowering one another. And if we have a customer that isn't okay with that, then they're just not the right customer for us.
Yeah, they're not. And it's very empowering to be able to walk away.
It is.
I think a lot of businesses feel like I shouldn't turn down good money. But I would say to that, define good money.
Right.
You're sacrificing your soul. It's not good money.
Well, and not only that, the attitude that you have and bring into your entire company empowers your employees to know that they can say no. Because I worked in an agency, and this little girl in her 20s, who you would think would know better, the younger ones seem to do a little better, but she made a racial slur at a business meeting, and I was with another person from our company, and I didn't say anything. And this was years ago, and I will never forget that I didn't say anything, because if I had, and we had lost that client, they'd have fired me. Yeah. And now I wish I had just done it anyway. But if I had felt empowered to know that my company supported me in telling this little twit, you can't say that in a meeting. This is not okay. Maybe I need to teach you this lesson. Nobody ever taught you this. You cannot do that. You cannot, you shouldn't believe it, but if you do, shut it up. That's important for your people.
Though. Yeah. We do the same thing for franchisees. It requires a unanimous vote by our management staff, who is very diverse. And, we do social stuff with them. And if there's any inkling of discriminatory language or, thought process, to each his own, but you're not part of our system. And, hopefully we can weed that out, but, we're human, and we're going to make some mistakes. And again, it's like a job interview. So some people aren't going to show their true colors, right? You hire for what they know, but you fire them for who they are.
Right.
Yep. That's a great way. That's a great way to put it. Absolutely. Character, we can kind of hide for a while until we're under certain pressures or situations. And the situations that your employees and your franchisees are under really bring forth character pretty quickly, I would guess. But in an interview process, on a piece of paper, being a bigot or being someone who is in some way discriminatory isn't always going to show up immediately. So it's so good to see this culture that you have created. And not only does it create congruity as a brand, meaning you're protecting your brand equity by saying, this is who we are. And as a franchisee, this is who we need you to be. And if you're not going to be comfortable with us, and we're not going to be comfortable with you. But it's also saying to a community which you are serving, we don't care who you are. We're going to love you. We're going to get you through this difficult situation. And it doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter any of that. Kind of thing. We're here to be in your corner.
Yeah, and everyone kind of, when they see my staff and stuff, they always say, how did you do it? How did you get such a diverse staff in such an open thing? And I will tell you, I was in the military, I was in law enforcement, two very non-diverse fields that are predominantly heterosexual white males. And I essentially thought when I was creating my business, I want to have a business where I would love to come to work every day because I can be me. And that's what, when I created this, that was my whole thought process. I want everyone to feel safe here, to feel loved, to feel welcomed, and feel appreciated. And I think it's, you know, it's relayed because we do social events together. We have spirit type stuff together. We're very diverse. We have, I think we only have 2 heterosexual white males out of 25. So, you know, everybody else is, you know, either Black, Hispanic, Asian, you know, we've got everything. So, and I find that the company does better when we have a diverse group of people because everyone has something unique to share.
Amen. And, you know, statistics prove that, Laura, that the diversity equals profitability.
Yes.
So because we have different views, we're going to be more innovative, we're going to see things in a way that others don't see it. So diversity is profitability, especially if we're in an environment like what you have at Spaulding Deacon, which nurtures it, encourages it, rewards it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you're up to.
Thank you.
Oh, and I hope, my hope for you is in the community is that people see the success that you are having and a light bulb goes off. Like, maybe this is something we need to emulate and not the other. Because I think we need to be more and more frank in our discussions about the importance of diversity and the gifts that every group of people brings. You know,
the problem is that I think a lot of big businesses vocalize it, but they don't implement it.
Right.
And it's like it's the 2020 trend that we're a diverse business, but yet, you know, our president of diversity is a heterosexual white male. It's like, come on, practice what you preach. Here, you know,
there's some of it's ignorance.
Yeah, like come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, I'll go to these. I'm a member of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and every year, minus this year, we have a large conference where Fortune 500 companies come and they support us by giving us an opportunity to win big business. And that to me speaks volumes because they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're essentially saying, we know that diversity is good for our business and we want more diverse vendors and suppliers so we can enhance our own business. So they're supporting us and, you know, it's much appreciative, but they're walking the walk and that's important.
It's hard as a baby boomer, right? I can tell you, and as a behavioral scientist, that we tend to have greater rapport with people like ourselves, like people like ourselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is my confession here in that I have a really hard time working with millennials. I can't see the world through their eyes at all. I've tried it a handful of times. I want to be diverse. I want to be understanding. But it seems like that they think so differently than me as a baby boomer, female, you know, a white person, etc. I don't always get them. So some of it I think isn't that we don't want to. It literally is kind of wired. We like people like ourselves. We feel safer with people like ourselves. We don't understand people unlike ourselves. And so even though there's a financial benefit and there's a win all the way across the board to consider running businesses that are more diverse, you know, in every possible way, we fall back into our comfort zone. Like I have personally, I have. I'm like, that's it. I'm not hiring another millennial if it's the last person on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Is it fair? No, it's not fair, but it is kind of a little bit of how I'm wired, and I'm sure other people are wired.
Yeah, but I think as a business owner, I can't possibly relate to all of the different types of people in our community. So it's my responsibility to make sure that our company represents that, so that our customers can identify with our staff.
Good point.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. My husband, we live in Lower Alabama, and he owns a Patch Boys franchise. And one of the very first, and he's a big, tall, white, burly Alabama guy. Not someone when you walk into their home would think would be LGBTQ friendly. Mm-hmm. And his first clients ever were a lesbian couple with a little baby. And I thought from their perspective, I would have been worried. Like, is this guy with the Southern drawl going to be friendly to me? Or is he going to look at us and think, oh, well, and cause an issue? I was like, you need to wear your rainbow pin on your collar, because down here, those representations matter. If he had a display, they're going to immediately know that he's okay. So I think that making those things known, that we promote diversity, that we will service any kind of client, any group of people, any whatever, every color of the rainbow, those messages can be so empowering to your business. Because if I had been in that position, I might have been a little nervous. Oh,
and I can tell you that that's a true thing. That's a genuine fear. And by having some type of representation showing that you're friendly really makes people at ease. I know when I go to a different city or something and I'm just trying to navigate it and feel it out, if I see, a flag or a Black Lives Matter or something, I'm probably going to go into that restaurant or shop because I see that they're friendly.
Mm-hmm. You feel safe.
So we almost need a symbol that just says inclusion, right? Yeah. Rather than this group, that group, the other group, but some kind of symbol that says.
Yeah, I've seen a sticker that says diversity inclusion on it.
There you go. That's what we need. That says it doesn't matter the color, the this or that, the other. I'm going to love you. Period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's important. It's very important. So it makes me excited to see you grow and spread the love and show other people how it's done.
Yeah. Practice what you preach. If that's the way, and if you fake it, it's going to come out.
Oh, yeah.
So don't fake it. If you don't feel that way, don't do it. Don't do it. But if you do feel that way, practice what you preach, because, when you give people opportunities that they're currently being overlooked, I'm telling you, you're missing a lot of talent out there. I was able to get some fantastic talent because they were overlooked by people that discriminated against them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Lots of benefits. So I hate to do this, ladies, but we could talk forever to you, Laura, but we do need to wrap up. Would you do me a favor and tell people that are interested in Spaulding Deacon or want to talk to you, how they might be able to get hold of you, Laura?
Yeah. So if you're interested in franchising, it's just spauldingdecon.com/franchise. And then we have some great social media platforms that are, highly popular. The newest one being TikTok. We're trying to hit 1 million in 1 month. We've been up there. So then, Instagram, we're Crime Scene Cleaning, and YouTube is Crime Scene Cleaning as well. We have, I think we're on our 5th season of a reality series on YouTube.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it because it's really some amazing stuff.
It's shocking.
It is. So shocking, and you can't stop watching it. So definitely check that out. Laura, thank you so much for your time. We've so enjoyed talking to you. I enjoy talking to you every time we connect. So,
ladies, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right Fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome back to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to franchising, to relationships, to marketing, to anything under the sun. So our topic today, we interviewed Laura Spaulding from Spaulding Decon, who's a fun and great interview. And we wanted to talk about what our takeaways were from her interview, because she had so many really interesting things that we could pull from. So Rebecca, what was the thing that struck you the most about her?
Well, to your point, there were so many wonderful takeaways. I think for me, the one that really sticks out is how she handled being rejected again and again and again, and how she bounced back from rejection and simply saw that, rejection as a door has been closed, and she went looking for another door. And the rejections that she went through were not little rejections. We're talking the military, a massive organization getting rejected from that, a rejection from her parents. So rejection is a very, very painful, or being ostracized is a very painful emotion. I don't know if I could have had the resilience that she had. She was able to almost take it in stride, like, okay, this is what I'm going through. Yes, this is not fun. This is kind of painful, but it never shook her confidence, right? And she continued through determination and grit, moving forward, looking for another door or another opportunity, knowing that one had been closed. But to me, one of the most painful emotions is abandonment, is rejection. And she experienced it again and again. And all I can do is applaud her for this resilience that she has and this determination that she has.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, she credited stubbornness with that ability to continue going and going and going. And I think that underestimates her. I think stubbornness has such a negative connotation. I mean, you could call it tenacity, but even that's not enough. I think there's a strength of character that she has, that she was not going to be defeated by those things. And I don't think everybody has that. And I think that there's a lot more inner strength that she probably developed because of all those rejections and obstacles that she probably didn't even know she had. And, they say you don't know how strong you are until you feel like you can't do something and you have to do it anyway. And she did. So I think hers is such a remarkable, it's really a rags to riches story through her own determination and grit. I mean, it's really remarkable when you look at where she started and where she is now.
Yeah. It was Eleanor Roosevelt that said almost same quote that you gave. You don't know how strong a woman is until you put her under pressure. And she likened it to a tea bag, that you really don't know how strong a cup of tea is until you put it in hot water. And in Laura's case, she was in a lot of hot water, right?
Continually.
Yeah, and she came out stronger and stronger and stronger. And today she inspires others to hold firm, be determined, bootstrap, do what's necessary. A very inspiring story that Laura's life is to us. And I certainly walked away going, has there been anything in my life where I would take that kind of abuse and that kind of rejection and that kind of abandonment? And I can think of one or two places where I'm like, this is not my problem. It's the situation, or this is what's going on. And I was able to keep going. But I think, like you said, not every one of us is able to, and in every situation, be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot, personally, professionally, financially, she's getting hit from every direction.
She certainly was. Wow. Okay. As always, fabulous conversations that we're having with women. And then, of course, you and I get to dissect it later and get a little bit of nuggets in there. But we do need to wrap up at this point and be prepared for our next Woman in the Know.
All right. The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. If you have a question for Elizabeth and I, direct them to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. So, Elizabeth, our question today comes out of our conversation with Laura Spaulding of Spaulding Deacon, and this interesting culture that she created. And so the question is, A, how in the world did she create this culture of inclusion and diversity, and why is it so important?
Well, I think that what she went through, we touched on it in Women in the Know, and she certainly talked about it in her interview. Every community she belonged to rejected her military people, the U.S. government, basically, her family, she tried to rent an apartment and was not allowed to rent an apartment as a same-sex couple. I think when you experience that kind of exclusion from community and culture, it becomes more important to you to make sure that you have that. And so what she did, which is truly amazing, is create her own culture and community that accepted her, allowed her to thrive, be successful, and grow, but gave a space to anybody. She was welcoming to every single group of people, regardless of color, national origin, sexual orientation, religion, whatever. Everybody in those groups, and I think she had to be intentional about it. I think she made sure to be inclusive in who she hired. And I think she set boundaries for those that they were not welcome there. You either get on board with their culture or you don't, and that's fine, but you just find somewhere else. You're not a good fit. So I think that's how she did it, being that intentional and making sure that she's very public about it. She lets people know what her culture is going to be like and what you can expect. And she interviews from that perspective. She attracts franchisees from that perspective. So she makes sure that as she grows, so does her vision of culture and community.
Yeah. So she's sort of the heart of this culture. And I think the important part about that is the culture of this franchise or or this franchisee or this company, they can all be different. But by being intentional, like Laura was, where she clearly communicated, this is the culture within my organization that I want to create. And these are the types of people that will foster that and allow it to bloom, right? And some people will fit and some people won't. I personally have had that experience where I've just not been a cultural fit in a particular company. Wasn't them, wasn't me. It was just I didn't belong in that particular culture. Laura said something that I thought was fascinating. It's kind of that put your money where your mouth is kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're going to talk about inclusion and you're going to talk about diversity as a company, as a culture, then prove it, right? Prove that you are, create an environment that allows for that. And I think that's true of any kind of culture. We have to clearly define what our culture is and who's going to be comfortable there, and then welcome them with open arms and vice versa. There's times when, like me in that one situation, I wasn't a good fit. They shouldn't have let me in.
Should have weeded you out right off the bat.
I should have said, out of here.
Well, it applies to everything. And as Laura pointed out, companies perform better with diverse groups of people. And when you become exclusive and exclusionary, you are limiting the talent pools and the points of view and the experiences that can make something really beautiful. And I think that's one when you talk about why is it important to have different, I mean, if everybody, I wouldn't want to have 3 friends who are exactly like me. How boring is that, right? Because every friend that you have teaches you something or brings something to the table that you don't have, or has a different experience or a different cultural background that maybe would be useful to whatever business you're trying to do. So I think recognizing that different people have different gifts and that positively impacts your business is a really important thing to keep in mind when you're developing your culture.
I think that's so valuable. And from a business perspective, statistics prove what you say is right, that the more diverse we are, different sets of knowledge base and experiences and opinions, when we bring those together and we're receptive together, companies financially do better. So even if you're not comfortable with it yourself, if you're really concerned about your bottom line, you may want to consider thinking a little bit outside the box and thinking a little bit more about diversity and inclusion. You know, like you said, I think when we think about our circles, right, our best friend is likely someone very much like ourselves, but then we go out just slightly beyond that, a little bit different, opening us up to other experiences and adventures that maybe, and then you go out just a little bit more, you're going to have additional experiences and adventures. So you kind of have to remember what circle you got people in. If this is a business, they need to fit within that culture. But at the same time, as a business owner, you have to be receptive to opening that circle just a little bit, because you're going to be more profitable.
Absolutely. Very important thing to think about.
Yeah, profit is always important, right?
It's the bottom line.
The bottom line. Moolah, moolah. Absolutely. What a great conversation we had with Laura, and the takeaways were fabulous. So if you haven't listened to her interview, please go back to Where Passion and Purpose Collide and take a look at that interview. But for today, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Where Passion and Purpose Collide, profits are made and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.